The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing game's been missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, please subscribe, hit that bell notification, and I would really appreciate it. I want to just get into it, man. So, Top Rank Boxing had their most recent card, in their Boxing is Back series following the coronavirus. And the card was supposed to be headlined by Jose Pedraza and Mikel Lespierre. Lespierre's manager tested positive for COVID, so they scrapped the fight. That got pushed back to July 14th. Gabriel Flores, the young, very talented prospect, moved up to the main event, and he fought Joseph Ruiz, who's a guy who trains here in South Florida. I know Joseph Ruiz. I know of him. I've seen him fight in local cards. But the real main event, once again, it was supposed to be another night of bum bashing on network television. But your boy Cassius Clay Collard came to save the day. All right, Clay Collard. Many of us may remember earlier this year. He was matched up. I think it was in January. I want to say it was January. It was back in not January, February. Back in February, he was matched up against Raymond Guayardo, a PBC prospect at super welterweight. You know, a guy who was 5-0. That's where I really learned about who Clay Collard was. It was supposed to be a swing fight on a Yordenis Ugas card, and it turned into the fight of the night. He stopped Raymond Guayardo, and that's kind of where, to me, he announced himself. And so you look at Clay Collard. He's developed this reputation for destroying these prospects. The Guayardo fought, like I said, 5-0 prospect. The fight before that, in January, which wasn't on TV, he fought a prospect by the name of Krishan Toller, who was 9-0. And he beat him as well. And he's beaten a number of undefeated prospects. But on this particular card, he was matched up against the David Kaminsky. David Kaminsky, a 6-0, a 6-0 super middleweight prospect, southpaw. Good fighter, good skills. Just very young, 19 years old, very raw. Has been in the rings, has sparred with the likes of the late great RIP Maxim Dadashev, who passed away last year in his fight against Super Matias. He was one of his sparring partners. So it was a chance for Kaminsky to really see where he's at. He had never been in a dogfight, and Clay Collard is slowly beginning to become that measuring stick in which these prospects are measured against. You see what I'm saying? And mind you, before we get to the fight, Clay Collard is a guy who's been fighting all up and down the weight classes. He fought Bektier Melikuziev, a guy who's very highly rated by a lot of you guys out there who watch True School Sports. Some of you guys say Melikuziev is the best prospect in boxing. Collard fought him. At light heavyweight, Melikuziev folded him up in 4 rounds. When he fought Krishan Toller, I believe he fought him at, I think it was welterweight. And he took this fight, and the Guayardo fight was at 154, and this fight was at super middleweight. So he's all up and down the scales, that Clay Collard. He's pretty much living the 1950s fighter lifestyle, where these guys they fight multiple times a year, 4 or 5 times a year. And he's going up and down the weight class. He wants to fight the best guys out there. So, just to get into the fight, Kaminsky was a southpaw. Clay Collard is a really weird fighter because he doesn't use a lot of head movement, and he holds his hands down, and he doesn't really fight with the same rhythm and tempo all the time. But then he also understands the ability of how to step over and create angles, and he can throw all kinds of punches. Moving forwards. So he's a really awkward fighter. He truly is an awkward fighter because a lot of times a boxer or a fighter, they might be able to basically move a certain way, but they have to always have their feet set to do things. Clay Collard is one of these guys. He can drop his hands and he can step right to you and step around you. He can throw 6 punches off balance with his chin up in the air, moving in a straight line. And he can still move you back. It was crazy. There was a part in the second or third round. Clay Collard literally threw 5 or 6 punches, all off balance, moving forward, and he somehow successfully managed to move this kid back. So it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but it's effective and it gets the job done. So I think what makes Clay a good fighter is the fact that he is an MMA fighter. He comes from a UFC background, and the striking in UFC is different. So his posture is a bit different, but he also has, from what they said on the commentary, over 100 amateur fights. And so he also does know some of the rudimentary fundamentals of boxing. So he can take what he learned from the UFC take what he's done in boxing, and he kind of just fuses it together, and you get what you get. But the fight with Kaminsky was very good. Clay Collard didn't waste any time. It was a 6-round fight, so he couldn't waste any time. He came in, he started moving his hands, 1-2, 1-2, coming in a straight line. Mixing in some left hooks, but then as he began to settle in, you begin to, especially around round 3, round 4, you begin to see him mixing that right hand, and that right hand was money. That right hand was landing. The bank was open. He was cashing his checks on Sunday, and Clay Collard was beating David Kaminsky all upside his head. So the right hand was very key for him. His ability to throw the right hand, and at times, he showed at times the ability to dip the right hand and slip to his left, and then throw a left hook around it. He was able to throw the right hand, slip to his left, and then throw the left hook coming around. And Clay Collard made David Kaminsky, the young 19-year-old fighter who had never done a dogfight, he made Kaminsky really have to go into some deep, dark, and uncomfortable places. And you begin to see it in his face. He had no problem using his forearms in the clinches. He was a very, very what's the word I'm gonna use? Very physical fighter. And he was going to the body. He was stepping around him. He just kept pushing the pace. And was it pretty? No. Was it Vasily Lomachenko or Pernell Whitaker? No, it was not. But I think there's something that a lot of fighters can learn from Clay Collard, and that is the fact that if you don't have the skills, if you don't have the ability to compete as far as, with the elite boxing skills, then the worst you can do is move your hands, okay? Behave like a fighter. If you get hit by a body shot that hurts you, don't overreact too much and give the fighter a reason to jump on you, because there was an instance in the 4th round where Kaminsky landed a really good body shot on Clay Collard, and it did slow him up a bit, but he didn't over exaggerate how much it actually hurt him, and because of that, he was able to keep Kaminsky off of him for a couple of seconds. So it was a close fight on one judge's scorecard. One judge scored for Clay Collard. I personally scored the fight 5-1 for Clay Collard. I could see a 4-2 scorecard, but regardless of how you scored it, he won this fight, no doubt about it. One judge actually had it 4-2 for Kaminsky, and whoever he is, he might need these. He might need to get his damn diet checked, because he clearly don't know what he's watching. But to keep things on a positive note, Clay Collard has defeated his 3rd undefeated prospect this year. I mean, let's look at it real quickly. January, he beat Krishan Toller via unanimous decision. He was 9-0. February, he beat Raymond Guayado, who was 5-0. And in June, he beat David Kaminsky, who was 6-0. So I'm gonna put it to you guys like this. Clay Collard, as far as I'm concerned, he's got to be the front runner for fighter of the year. He is, no doubt about it, because at this moment in time, because of COVID and everything going on, most fighters haven't had a chance to fight 2 times, let alone 3 times. He's gotten 3 fights in already. And it's not just the fact that he's got 3 fights in already. It's the fact that he's a guy that's supposed to be used as a stepping stone. A guy that's supposed to be used as an opponent. A fighter with limited boxing experience. A fighter that has an MMA, UFC background. Who's got the deck stacked against him. And what does he do? He's going to Fox and PBC. He's going to Top Rank ESPN. He's fighting on televised shows. It don't matter what network, what television, where it is at in the world. Clay Collard wants all the smoke, and he's fighting all these prospects. That's why on True School Sports we call him the Prospect Destroyer. That's why we call him the Prospect Killer, because that's what he's doing. He's destroying any and all prospects. And the crazy thing is, it doesn't even matter if they're in the weight class. He'll go to welterweight. He'll go to light heavyweight. He'll go to super middle. He'll go to 154. It don't matter. This guy's a throwback fighter. So I got all the respect in the world for Clay Collard, because in an era where you've seen the pussification of men ooze its way into the sport of boxing, we have a guy who's behaving like a fighter and a real man. So I have the utmost respect for Clay Collard, and I want to end the video by saying this. I think he's done enough this year if it's to be offered a TV contract. So I'm throwing this out there. Top Rank, ESPN, PBC, Fox, Matchroom Boxing, and DAZN. I really think Clay Collard should be given a chance to succeed in boxing. You guys have put him in there with 3 undefeated prospects where it was against all odds, and he was there to lose, and he performed exceptionally well each and every time. And on top of that, he won, but also was able to deliver a good show, which I think is very important, because a lot of times a fighter can be a good fighter but not be entertaining to the casual fan. Clay Collard's style is very elementary and rudimentary, and the average fan can understand his style. Move forward in a straight line, throw straight punches, behave like a fighter. People understand those things. So, because he's winning, I think he should be afforded the chance to make something of himself in boxing, to make some real money, to get a real TV contract. because clearly he's shown that he can fight. How good of a fighter is he? We don't know until we put him in there with somebody who's a top fighter. But you know, I say let's give him a chance. Give the guy a chance to make something of himself. He's really earned the opportunity. A lot of times these fighters bitch and moan and they complain about how they're not getting no opportunities. But here we have a guy who does none of that, who had nothing given to him, who had no media hype behind him, nothing, and he's making something of himself on a fight by fight basis. And he's one of those guys. Like I'll tell you this. He was probably my biggest motivation to watch this card tonight. It wasn't Gabriel Flores. It wasn't any of these other guys. It was Clay Collard. He's become one of these guys that when I see his name on the card, I want to tune in because I want to see if he can keep doing it. I want to see if he can keep doing it. I know that he's going to be a fun fighter to watch. So that's what it is. There are some other big fights out there I like to see for him as far as prospects go. I'll mention that in another video. But as far as I'm concerned, this guy is a fighter of the year. He is. He's a fighter of the year. Not Tyson Fury. It's not Romo Gonzalez. It's not any of these guys. Not Mikey Garcia. Not Crawford or anybody. Even though Crawford hasn't fought this year. It's Clay Collard because of what he's doing, how he's doing it, and the circumstances he's doing it in. So give him a contract. ESPN Top Rank, PBC, Fox. Matchroom DAZN, allow this man to prove himself and give him a couple tune-up fights to really build himself up, put some money behind him. Let's see what we got. Let's see what we got in the guy. I like this guy a lot. I think he's great for the sport of boxing. He's a breath of fresh air in this time where a lot of guys just are ducking fights. They're really just afraid to lose their O. Here's a guy who's been there with fantastic fighters. I mean, one guy he fought, I mentioned him earlier, was Melakuziev. And how good is Melakuziev? How good is his win looking right now? Melakuziev, a guy that people in my lives come on and always say BT, this guy's best prospect in boxing. And that's the only guy that stopped Clay Collard. And you know what? The more I see Clay Collard fight, the more I'm beginning to believe that Melakuziev might just be the best damn prospect in boxing. So I'm gonna have to go and sharpen up and watch some more film about Melakuziev. But that's the news. Clay Collard does it again. The prospect killer destroys once again. He takes another O of an undefeated prospect in David Kaminsky. And I just saw David Kaminsky's okay because he had to go to the hospital. So I don't want a Maxime Dadashev incident to happen again. So my prayers and my thoughts go out to him. May God protect him and God bless Kaminsky. And hopefully he can come back in good health and get back to doing what he loves in due time when the time is right. Because he did show a little bit of ability. I just think for him at this stage of his career, it was the wrong fight for him. Being 19 years old, you don't want to fight a guy like Clay Collard. He's too rugged, physical, and battle tested for that. But that's the news. You guys let me know what you think in the comments down below about Clay Collard. Make sure you guys take the time to subscribe. Like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just kidding. Until next time, take care, guys.